Hey guys, welcome back to the basement. We're on episode 4 now. We have some new guests, new faces that I just want to introduce real quick. We got Charlie, we got Heidi over here, and then another recurring cast member. We got Dave. So I haven't seen you guys in a minute. Question mark. How you been, Charlie? How you been? Been okay?
Yeah, I've been pretty good. Just working, just doing life, and just, I just last year I got married to my wife, Heidi. So yeah, that's good. And it's just newlywed life.
Yeah.
So how about you? How are you doing?
Working school, man. Working school. That's my life right now. Heidi, how about you? How you doing?
I've been doing well. I've just been trying to be intentional about taking each day at a time to find time to relax and self-care after work.
Mhm.
Just because, things have changed a lot. So, but
Yeah.
we've been doing pretty good. We've been really blessed.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Solid, man.
Dave, how you been?
Well, I'm tired, bro. To
Yeah?
be honest, yeah,
I feel it.
yeah.
And you pull
Mhm.
long weeks too, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah, long hours. So
Yeah.
but I'm good.
How many? If you were to guess, how many
Yeah.
hours?
Oh my goodness. To be honest, I don't even know,
lot?
dude.
Like 60?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'll say
It's-
it's a lot. It sounds
More
like
than 40, huh?
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool.
That. Hey, kudos to you, man.
Mhm.
So I just want to share a little story with you guys. It's something that happened this week. So for those of you that don't know, I work in the emergency department at a hospital.
Mhm.
So COVID, non-COVID, lot of stuff going on, right?
Mhm.
So this week I had this guy came in. He had a broken hip. I guess not the hip, but whatever, right? Comes in, he needs surgery. We're trying to help him, but this guy is just the rudest, right? The rudest. He's yelling, he's cussing. He's just the most abusive. He's like cussing us out, saying like we're worthless, all that jazz, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fun.
So the entire time, I'm just kind of standing in the background because I'm
Mhm.
just waiting for him to get like physically
Mhm.
aggressive, but it doesn't. And the entire time, I'm thinking, what could I do to mediate the situation, right? How can I calm this guy down? Because that's one of the things we're taught is diffusion.
De-escalate, huh?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
because you don't want to escalate situations, you want to de-escalate them. So I'm thinking, how can I do this? So everybody leaves and they want me to sit with him because
Oh.
he's all over the place.
One
And
to
I'm
one.
one-on-one, and we're talking, and I'm trying to like, hey sir, I'm really sorry, blah blah blah, but we're really trying to help you out, we really are. So he's like not listening to me at all. It's going from one ear
Mhm.
out the other, and he's just getting madder, and I'm just like, I'm really sorry sir, like, can I get you a blanket, maybe I can get you, I don't know, some ice, some water,
Yeah.
I can help, but you just got to let me. And he starts getting physical
Mhm.
to the point where he's saying he's gonna hit me.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, well, I don't think he's gonna hit me. This guy's kind of old. I really don't think he's gonna hit me. So I'm still talking to him. I'm trying to be calm, and then,
Just real quick, how old was he?
Yeah.
dude, this guy's like literally 70.
Oh, okay.
So it's like this
Dang.
he's not young, but he's not
Yeah.
old, but he's old,
Yeah.
right? So he's like, if you don't get me such and such and such,
Wow.
I'm gonna kick you in the face.
Wow. With a broken hip.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, what, like, right? So, I'm like,
try me.
please don't. Please don't. That's really high.
Mhm.
So what does he do? He tries to kick me.
Oh,
He actually
jeez.
tries to kick me, and I had to dodge, and kind of
Was it hard to dodge?
it came at like a mile an hour,
Wait, time out, was he like on a bed or like in a wheelchair?
He's
or
lying
what?
down.
Oh,
So he had to like put some effort into this.
yeah.
But like after I blocked it,
Yeah.
it's like going through my mind, like, this dude really actually tried to hit me.
Jeez.
Like, he had the intent, the aggressive intent, that
Yeah.
physical intent, that, hey, I
Cause
want
harm to you.
to hurt this guy.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about that all throughout this week, and thinking, like, if things could have gone differently,
Mm.
right? And I kind of dismissed myself from that situation afterwards. I kind of walked away, and I was mad about it. Obviously, this
Yeah.
guy just tried to kick me. I'm just trying to help him, and I had this feeling that even though he tried to hit me, even though I wanted to only help him, I have to forgive him.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought it's pretty hard. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys have you guys ever been in situations like that where it's like you've been wrong,
Yeah.
right? You're doing nothing, but now you're in a situation where it's like, you have to be, or you could be the bigger person, and you could forgive someone for something they've done to you. Have you ever been in situations like
Yeah. To be quite honest, sometimes while it's in the moment, forgiveness is, I'm being honest, is sometimes the last thing on my mind. Especially if you're talking about a physical altercation. Altercation rather.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I've been in any. To be honest, I think going back to high school or something. But
It doesn't have to be physical.
I'm just somebody doing. Yeah, I mean, in times like that, I'm gonna be real with you. I've retaliated, in the moment, and sometimes I walk away feeling like, yeah, I stood up for myself, but at the same time, like, was that the proper way to do it?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, forgiveness is, I'm being honest, sometimes the last thing on my mind still.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sometimes like, oh, how I could have gotten back at them better, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like for me too, like I like forgiveness. Well, one thing I can think of is my family.
Hmm.
My family have gone through a lot of things,
Yeah.
but they put me through a lot of things too.
Yeah.
They have called me, like my own mother has called me, really just vulgar terms, and just has hit me and done things like that.
Wow.
And it's not even like before, when I was in high school, I was really searching for a place to feel loved, and every time I went home, I wouldn't want to be home because
You didn't get that.
I didn't get that.
Mhm.
A
So
place where you're supposed to be safe and
yeah, and so
Mm.
like with that's
Yeah.
hard. And then my as I said, my parents being abusive, and then
Yeah.
not only my parents but my family, like my aunts and uncles,
Mhm.
I would act up and they'll be like, oh, why are you acting up, why are you
Yeah.
being like this, why are you being like that? And so
Oh.
it even led to more anger and frustration. And then when it's like at school, when people are giving me terms or something, now I'm already mad, and so I'm
Yeah.
just like fighting people,
Mhm.
just trying to control what I control, and so I
Mhm.
just was like more like, let me be the person to get respect,
Mhm.
and so for a long time I was like that. But in high school I met a girl who's my wife now.
Aw.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out.
And she really softened my heart and showed me
Nice.
that I could be loved. And that was the beginning of not only forgiving the world, but forgiving my family and things like that, because I saw that you know my family was broken, they've been hurt too. And they were just people who weren't ever taught to handle situations properly,
In a healthy manner.
Mhm.
yeah, in a healthy manner. And so with that being in my mind, it made me like, take that step to like, okay, let me back off, not look at myself, but look at their situation and put myself in their shoes and see like, okay, maybe they did this because really they don't know. And even if I'm like, why don't you know? You're an adult, or
Yeah.
you're,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. Again, it's that those customs, they were,
Mhm.
That's
accustomed
really
to.
hard to do. That's like,
Yeah.
'cause, I mean, you pulled yourself out of
Yeah,
the equation,
and
then
it was
you just
just-
kind of looked at it.
And it was, I had to be around positive people like my wife to really step out from that. Because if I was before, I was just with people who would hurt me. I was just with people who would abuse me, and my friends were even abused, like like bullying me. So I was never out of a situation where I needed to
Forgiveness.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Never probably
so
come to the forefront.
yeah, so when I really stepped out of that, it really showed me forgiveness. But as I said, my wife Heidi, her situations have also like um, been a light to me, or been a a story to
Mhm.
me too. Um,
How so?
Yeah, I think one thing that we learned from each other is that we were holding things from the past that were like we were bringing into the relationship that we didn't know was actually affecting different
Mm,
aspects of our lives. So one thing I did learn from Charlie as well was the fact that I have to step away and look at what happened, and think about what that person is feeling or why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the biggest things for me was forgiving my dad after he left my family when I was 5. And I didn't see him for 20 years. And so I had the chance to reunite with him and have a conversation to try to find forgiveness. But just thinking about forgiveness, I think it's a really difficult process with a lot of emotions. Just like how Dave was saying, how you kind of just felt like you had to react at
Yeah.
that moment.
yeah,
And your situation too, you think about it for like days. Like, what if I should have said something
Yeah.
differently? Or, like, why would they do something like that? You almost feel
Yeah.
betrayed
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole time,
and you
you
feel
know?
vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but it's like you're holding on to these emotions
Yeah.
of feeling betrayed and I think upset, you're angry, and so you have to like really go through this whole
Yeah.
process of trying to get to the point where like you realize you need to forgive, you
Yeah.
know?
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially like Dawson's situation too, it's like he was trying to help that person too,
Right.
and they were
Mhm.
hurting him. I mean, in those situations when you're trying to help somebody, that's really hard to forgive the person,
Yeah.
because
You
like
meant them no harm at all. You were.
yeah, like you were trying to
Tryna-
do good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like
Literally the
Yeah.
opposite of what
Yeah.
happened.
and
Yeah.
like as I said, my parents and things like that, but like when I tried, not only like my parents, but even when Heidi was trying to help her dad, or when or when I try to help out anybody, and they come to me and they just are trying to hurt me, I'm just like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
you want to step up? I'll step up, like, but
You're about it.
yeah, but then at the same time, I'm like, what kind of message am I really
Yeah.
portraying of myself?
Mm.
And that's where like really like snap into
Yeah.
reality.
And like I feel like that's the hard part.
Yeah,
Because like in the moment, you're in the heat of the
Yeah.
moment. You're
Right.
not necessarily thinking about everything going on
yeah,
or how you're being portrayed. It's just like I guess for in my sense, in my example, it was aggression. Should I respond to aggression, or should I how
Mhm.
should I handle this?
yeah.
So like for a lot of scenarios, it's like how you don't think about that,
yeah,
because you focus on one thing.
Yeah.
That's hard.
yeah. And it's just kind of going with I was saying was, like for my parents, I mean, they still do things that I don't like,
Mm.
and I try to help them, or I try to help, um, you know, my brothers, or I'm talking a lot about my family, but just people I really care about have the most impact on me.
Mhm.
So, when I try to help them and they reject that, as I said, it's hard to first take that step back and say they're rejecting it because they don't fully understand, or I've done something too that's made them not really trust me.
Mhm.
But also, it's like those moments when you're just like, why are you being so ignorant? Why are you being arrogant? Why are you
Mhm.
being like this?
Yeah.
Like, and it like for like Heidi and I, like when Heidi was going through her situation with her dad, I had to tell her, take a step back too and look at your dad's situation. Look at like what he's been through and what I'm like, he probably didn't see you. There's just a probability, but there's many other factors. He probably didn't see you because he's embarrassed, and he doesn't
Mhm.
want to like face those problems,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
And he was holding a lot of guilt.
yeah,
And I never thought about that until I had that conversation with Charlie. I just always looked at my side of it. Like, why would he do that? Like, or the effects that he left.
Mhm.
But when we had that conversation, and something I really appreciate about Charlie as well is that he had the courage to step back. And I was like, hey, stepping back from that, like, I can really take a new step to forgiving him and kind of like freeing myself from the weight,
Now I have a question for all of you.
What's that?
kind of flipping the perspective,
Mhm.
right? Is it harder to ask forgiveness than to
Mm.
forgive? For you.
Yeah, for I've been through a lot, so I've grown. Asking forgiveness, um, I guess it depends on the severity of the situation, because there's some situations where I know they're just completely angry and are not going to really
You have to read the
read
the room in a sense.
yeah, you have to, like at work, if I did something wrong, if I snapped at somebody, when I was, when there was a lot of stress on me, I would tell them, hey, like, I'm sorry, I snapped, or if I seem a little aggressive or whatever, like, I didn't mean to do that. And they'll be like, oh yeah, like, it's okay, Charlie, I understand, we were all stressed, or, we, like, I didn't mean that too. And then so it just, dissolves that case. But having anxiety too, is sometimes hard to ask for forgiveness, and anxiety takes a huge role in my life, which makes things a lot harder to face problems. But I've been dealing with it, and it's been easier. But
It's still there.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
still there, and it's just like trying to step that back and say, can I cope with this? Can I cope with asking for forgiveness? But not only asking forgiveness, just to say, hey, like, I'm sorry, but actually, like, meaning it, and things like that.
Yeah.
Not just to
Yeah, not
ease the
just
situation.
yeah,
kind
not
of
just
a
for the
stuff.
Right.
situation, but just
Yeah.
the real cause. Like when Heidi, had to say, "I'm
Mhm.
sorry," her, like, to her dad, or and like ask for, like, she, or and even me, I said sorry to my parents for, even though whatever they did to me, I'm like, I'm sorry if I was out wrong and I did wrong,
Mhm.
and so, but that took a lot
Yeah.
of guts,
Yeah.
and it took a lot of like humbling myself, because I didn't really want to, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so when it comes to asking for forgiveness, sometimes, or pride, sometimes I'm speaking for myself,
Yeah.
pride can get in the way where you're like, it's almost like you see yourself as the victim, and you don't, like, you don't even realize that you wronged the person sometimes, and so sometimes it's hard to even come to it, or sometimes you might not even want to accept that, oh, maybe I did wrong that person. Um, because a lot of folks don't see themselves as a bad person, or they,
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of folks, they're like, man, I don't know why Charlie isn't talking to me, or stuff like that.
Mhm.
Psh, I don't know.
that's his problem.
He's
Yeah.
probably in his feelings. Oh well, I'm not gonna lose sleep over
Yeah.
it.
But then the other
Yeah.
person's thinking the exact same thing.
But it's when it comes to asking for forgiveness, though, sometimes it can be hard, because it's like you're embarrassed, if you hurt this person and stuff like that. And I mean, sometimes that person just doesn't want to see you or anything like
Yeah.
that. I mean, I've noticed that it's actually been harder to forgive people that you actually care more about too, I guess.
Mhm.
Or like if somebody that you really cared about and they hurt you, sometimes it can be a challenge. Versus like somebody on the street, you're driving and they like cut you off and you're like, but it's just
Right.
like you're not gonna lose sleep over it or anything, or like,
But
I
they,
mean,
but they
Yeah.
scared you. That's when they like cut you off. They
yeah,
scared
like
you,
at the moment,
and so it's just a reaction like, why are you trying to hurt me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, where'd you get your license? But
Not
like,
here.
but someone like, a dear friend or something, and then it's like, yo, it just is, it's different,
Yeah.
Not saying it's okay, but yeah, I don't know.
I kind of feeding into what you said about the pride thing. I would say, for me, for asking for forgiveness is hard, because I can be very prideful.
Mhm.
And when I realize I did something wrong and I go to the person, I kind of imagine, like, like if your dog does something bad, and he kind of like, like, get over here, and then your dog
Mhm.
kind of like walks to you with his head down. That's what I imagine myself as.
Mhm.
You know, 'cause-
Dogs?
yes.
Okay. I just cleared.
yeah. I that's how I feel.
A scared dog.
You know,
Let
a
me
scared
clarify,
a scared dog. You know,
Tail
I
between
did
the legs,
I
head
did
down.
something.
eyes looking up.
Exactly.
Tail between
Mhm.
his legs.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Alright.
That's how I feel. It's hard, you know, because it's you're not only owning up to it, but you're looking that person in the eyes and saying, "Hey, I'm I did you wrong.
Yeah.
I messed up." It's hard. It's hard to admit that you messed up.
And that
Yeah.
you're a terrible person.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Well, sometimes I feel like when you're asking for forgiveness, you almost feel like you have to give an excuse of why you acted that way.
Yeah, I've done that.
You know, and
Yeah.
I've just realized recently that you don't always have. I mean, sometimes in some situations you should, like, this is what happened, but like more recently, I realized like a more sincere apology and telling them that I am sorry and I care about you. You know, like. Maybe make effort to make a difference is better than just saying like, well, you know, you started it by doing that, so that's why I reacted to this
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I'm
You
sorry
know?
you feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel that way.
I know I've told you guys before about this Dr. Gottman.
Mhm.
He has the four horsemen, it's
Mhm.
called, and,
Yeah.
and it's the 4 indicators that show that the person might get divorced or separation.
Mhm.
And I don't remember 4. Maybe you can help me,
Yeah.
or maybe you guys can help me. But I know one is content, which means like what Heidi said. You kind of just to say, oh yeah, I kind of you undermine what you did. You're like,
Right.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
that happened, but let's throw
It's
it
not
under
that
the
big
rug.
of an issue.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
big of an issue.
Yeah.
And then another one is stonewalling. So it's just kind of putting a wall up and saying like not talking to that person
Hmm.
and just kind of saying, oh well, like I'm not going to talk to them until they confess or like fess up, that they were wrong. And then the third one is attacking that person, saying you're wrong,
Criticism.
criticism.
Hmm.
And I forget the fourth one,
Yeah.
but it's kind of what you guys are saying, and
Yeah.
as I said, those are 3 indicators, and I forget the fourth one, but of divorce bound to happen because it's just that trespassing against a person's
Yeah.
boundaries
It
and
seems
lines.
like that's applicable to like
Any
relationship,
in
yeah.
general,
Yeah, because
huh?
in reality, if you do any of those 4, you're not taking responsibility for your action. You're just pointing fingers at the
Yeah.
other person, and so it creates, I think, resentment and
Yeah.
lack of trust. Hmm.
I would agree. Kind of going off of that, forgiving, asking for forgiveness.
Hmm.
Do you think, or not even that, not even what you think,
Do I feel?
forgiving, right? Like you said with your family,
Yeah.
it's kind of stuff that's happened in the past. Do you forgive them or do you forget about what happened?
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, the saying "forgive and forget,"
Yeah.
right? But I feel like it's kind of different.
So
Yeah.
you want to go?
You could go first.
All right. So that's saying I used to believe in forgive and forget, but now I believe in forgive but don't forget, because
Mhm.
an abuser, like even like and I'm going to be saying like a sexual abuser, you can't forget what they did,
Mhm.
you can't really say let's throw it under the rug.
Yeah.
And there, you have to remember those. And like let's say a murderer or somebody who's just kind of not all there in the head too, but it's you forgive the person, you love them, you treat them like with respect. But it's also, I have another analogy, but I'll save it for the end. But it's just more about like we can't really forget about those deeds that were done, because what if they do it again, but it's just more like that person hurt you, and yeah, you can be around that person, you can develop that relationship and everything too, but it's not where you want to cause that person any harm,
Yeah.
so that's why you
have
forgive
any
them.
malice towards them.
Yeah, and as one of I have a friend who he I have a close friend. He got it in a divorce, and his ex like did him wrong, but he was like, even though that person did me wrong, if that person was hanging from a cliff and needed to be saved, I will still save that person. If that
Wow.
person needed a place to stay, I'll give that person a place to stay, and all that. And and it shows that he actually was
It
forgiving
wasn't
that
just
person.
words.
No, it wasn't just words. He did it by action.
He meant it.
Yeah, he meant
Yeah.
it, and at the same time, he didn't forget, but he wasn't trying
But
to
it
retaliate.
it didn't hold it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
It didn't hold
Yeah.
it down. And I think
So that's my
it
perspective.
just kind of. Sorry, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, no, just to add on to what he was saying too earlier about, with forgiveness and if somebody was abusing you and stuff, for me as well, sometimes in abuse, it doesn't have to be severe as, like, let's say something like sexual, or,
Yeah.
they kill you, or you're
Right.
trying to kill you, something like that. But,
Yeah.
different forms of abuse and stuff like that, where I believe that sometimes it is best that you do remove yourself from that situation,
Yeah.
from that person. You forgive them, but for your own well-being, and that's just the right thing to do. But I think it's okay for you to also remove yourself from that person, especially if you see that this person has no intent of improving, and
Like changing.
that's all they're
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
And they start bringing you down. Or
Yeah.
something.
yeah, I think it's fine to remove yourself from there,
Piggybacking off of what you said about what he said,
Mhm.
it's like you said, right? It's important you forgive, but don't forget. It's also important to forgive, not forget. But let's say you're in a heated argument with this person, right? And they're doing something again that you don't bring up. what they've done in the
Right. You're not
past.
Yeah.
holding it,
That doesn't
putting
help.
in your back
then-
pocket to, like,
No.
Yeah, it's not. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be like like this is my little cache
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
of dirt that I got on you.
my red card.
It shouldn't be like that. Because
Mm-mm.
and then if it's like that, it's like have you actually forgiven them? If
Yeah.
you're just holding on to it for later, like now
Yeah.
and later.
And then also
Yeah.
you're just making that space even bigger.
Yeah.
And
And then
to forgive,
and then now you have other problems.
Yeah. And you just dig yourself in a deeper
In a
hole.
deeper grave. And you just keep going and going. The more you hold on to it.
Yeah, I've been in situations where I had to forgive someone and then move away from them, but not making a scene. Like you just show, like, for example, I remember like some of the first times I felt like I had to learn to forgive was in middle school. I had a best friend who I felt like really did me wrong, and so instead of like telling I wasn't gonna gossip about it. Instead, I'm like, okay, like I need to get away from this situation to create a healthier environment for myself. So I backed off, and if I were to see them at the store, I'm like, hey, but not in like engage in a conversation to start a new friendship, because I knew that their intentions were not, like they didn't really care for me.
Yeah.
So I think in some situations it is important to know when to step back and find peace for yourself.
And the cool thing sometimes too is that when they see, sometimes they get jealous, but sometimes your way of getting healthier, within yourself, can attract that person to say, hey, like, what have you been doing? Like you seem better. And they actually, from a distance, you still help them, and like, oh yeah, I've been doing this. I have some friends like that, from a distance, I help them out with whatever questions, but at the same time, as I said, I don't forget about what they did, and it's kind of just building that trust again too, and maybe eventually, I would be able to forget, but that's sometimes really hard, yeah, every situation's so different, so.
These are all still people you kind of still like talk to.
Yeah, from friends from Rancho Cucamonga and things like that.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's just it's not saying they're bad people or nothing, but it's
Yeah.
just like they don't really put in the effort like I do, and so it's just like, oh, like I'll pay for your stuff, or we can meet here, like let's go hang out, or or whatever, and then they just kind of don't show up. Or like it's like, hey man, how you doing? How's everything? Good. Oh,
Try.
okay. Like,
Yeah.
they-
All right.
Try.
They're hitting you with a K in the text
yeah.
messages.
Okay.
Haha.
Like, are you busy?
Yeah.
No. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Well, catch you on the flip side. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Or not even.
I was like, and
response.
then it's just like, all right.
Or it's just like a peace emoji.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of
Yeah.
as we're kind of saying, you know, that's kind of hard not to forgive at that moment. You know, you're like, well, I'm trying to like put this effort in, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just like, whoo, just, you know,
Yeah.
and then your heart starts pumping. My heart's already pumping. I'm like, why did they do that? You know, but
Mhm.
yeah, so
Now, do you have like a limit to how much you could forgive someone?
Well, I can. For me, in the past, you know, there were some things that like for me that I would just ignore.
Hmm.
I'm just speaking out of my personal experience, not
Sure.
you know my limit, but
Yeah.
this is what happened in the situation where I would ignore things and just like, you know, like, it's not an issue, but at the same time, it was an issue, and I was just putting it in the back instead of addressing it.
Yeah.
And then it came to a point where I really just didn't want to be around that person anymore, you know, just because of tolerating
Mm.
the abuse.
You'd been taking it for so long.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
you know, and so that it's just something that I believe that if I would have addressed it initially, um it would have just, I mean, I don't know what would have happened, but I think the healthier route was to address it at first, you
Mhm.
know, instead of, because it came to a point where I just, in a sense, cut off the person, you know,
Mhm.
and just didn't want to be around that person at all,
Yeah.
you know.
To add to what you're saying, like you didn't
Yeah.
address it. For me, in my personal experience, coming, you know, in order to understand that, oh, I need to apologize, or oh, I need to forgive this person, you kind of have to recognize that there's a problem.
yeah,
And sometimes
Mhm.
that is the hardest,
yeah,
you know, because it's like what's the not the stereotype, but it's like you know, like when your mom tells you to clean your room, right? So you just shove everything in the closet.
Oh, that you're
Yeah.
gonna say when you talk back.
Oh.
No, mom.
Oh no, I could never. I could
You
never.
do it.
No, you're allowed to talk back.
Don't you raise your voice? Yeah, no, I could never. But like, where it's like, oh, go clean your room. So you shove everything like underneath the bed
Mhm.
or you know, into the closet, and you just hope it's out of sight, out of mind. That's kind of how I was or am. You know, it's that recognition that I'm doing something wrong
Yeah.
or somebody's doing something wrong, because it's easier, at least for
Mhm.
me, it's easier to just kind of ignore that there's a problem
Convenience
there.
sake.
Yeah, convenient,
Yeah.
because then you don't have to deal with it,
Yeah.
you know, and
There's-
that makes it easier.
yeah, in a marriage perspective too.
Mhm.
Like me and Heidi, we have to forgive each other every
Mhm.
day. One of the things that we learned in marriage is that there's no there's no happy ending, or there's no happy ever after. That means there we go.
Mhm.
You know, our society has given us a perspective or a thing where like when you get married, everything's gonna be happy all the
fairy
time.
tale.
Yeah.
It's like a permanent honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I'm like, before we got married, I'm like, Heidi, there's going to be sometimes we're not gonna be happy. And what did you say?
I don't remember.
She's like, why
like, "You
not? She's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, Heidi, like, I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna make
Mhm.
mistakes, and I'm a man, so sometimes I'm not gonna know why I did it.
That's fair.
What I did.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
And I'm like, you're gonna probably think I'm dumb sometimes, and probably I am. But you know,
Yeah.
but I told her, I'm like, you're gonna have to forgive me for those times, and I'm gonna have to forgive you too
Mhm.
for times when I feel that you pass a boundary. But what we've done is before we got married too, is we went to premarital counseling. We learned a lot of good
Mhm.
techniques and advice, and I mean, you can share some experience that
Mhm.
we
About-
face about
I would say that it's very humbling, like
Yeah.
to know, like I think in some situations with forgiveness there is other resources, like counseling or other things you can do
Yeah.
together.
Mm.
And other times you have to do it separately because you know that person is not going to work with you or has hurt you a lot and you can't come in contact with them. But I think it has been a learning experience to humble yourself and realize like it's really hard to say sorry. I think, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And so we've had
Remember that date? No, just kidding.
yeah, but sometimes we have to learn that if we're both on the same page about learning how to forgive, and we're a little bit, we have to be more gentle on ourselves and, you know, be able to work together too. And it's not like forgiving big things every day, but it's acknowledging like how to get comfortable
And-
with asking for forgiveness.
And seeing the problem as Kevin
Yeah,
was saying.
yeah.
'Cause
So,
when we don't see the problem,
oh yeah,
things build up.
And then it escalates.
You
and then
won't-
it takes just the tiniest little thing. to,
Right.
oh, you know
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
and that's another thing when we also learn is once you put something under the rug, it's like you don't even intentionally think about it, but it's still there. And so you start acting like a certain way, you start avoiding more, you know, and there's like tension building.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
once you start
snowball.
kicking it, it's like really getting hidden,
Yes.
and then it just like all comes out.
And
So
sometimes it's like,
yeah,
you know, I do something or she does something, and we're like, oh, you know, we kind
yeah,
of throw it on
no
the
big
rug.
deal,
It's-
no big
yeah,
deal.
because
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the time it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But as the day goes on, it starts becoming a big deal.
You keep thinking about it.
It's
It's like,
like-
wait a minute. Wait
It's
a
like,
second.
why did she leave my lunch on the counter?
What's she trying to say?
It got spoiled, you know.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like,
Mhm.
you know, and then it's like, why did she, like, you know, and then why did she, and it's kind of again pointing
yeah,
the
because you
finger.
like it's like when in the beginning we're talking about when something happens, you like repetitively think about it and why did they do it.
Yeah, and
So,
so but what I learned is that, oh, and this for you guys too, if you haven't learned, when women chastise us, it's because they love us and not because they're trying to step up.
Copy.
But and I had to learn that is that when, you know, she tells me something, it's not that she's trying to attack me or make me feel bad about myself, but it's because she loves me.
Mhm.
And so like when I took that perspective and had to step back, it's more like, oh, okay, like she's doing this because she loves me, you know, and she's doing this because she's scared, and I'm probably doing something that's making her scared or that she's not liking. And so sometimes I also have to identify like, hey, did I do something, you know, that I hurt you?
Mhm.
And I have to ask, like, if I did, I ask for forgiveness. But it's like, again, it's not only identifying the problem, like what she did to me, but also what I did to her too.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Yeah, no, I think that's important that we really self-reflect a lot.
yeah,
You know, because I mean, sometimes we hurt folks, and I mean, we've been in that situation where people have hurt us and
Yeah.
they don't even know what they did, and
Yeah.
in the same thing, vice versa, we've hurt people and we don't know that we've hurt them, you know.
Mm.
And I think it's really
Mhm.
important that we self-reflect a lot. I mean, be careful with how you treat people, how you talk to them, you know, and stuff. But
But sometimes you just do
Yeah,
something
you
and
know.
you don't even know you did it.
you weren't even trying to, but it was hurtful,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Do you think maybe more in like a more physical, aggressive type of stance? Or I mean maybe just in general, but do you think retaliation is ever okay?
remember that time you told me that you're going to flatten somebody out?
You did what?
But he did it. He did it.
Yeah,
Ah,
Charlie.
the flesh is weak, brother. No,
Okay.
is it if you're trying to preserve yourself, I mean, you're in danger. I mean,
Let's say because this has happened to me.
yeah,
I don't have my driver's license.
yeah,
Suspended,
yeah.
right? Insurance, who cares?
Ooh,
Right?
ooh.
Speed limits, suggestions.
Ah,
I rear end you on the freeway 710 going northbound,
ooh.
and I show no remorse whatsoever. And I'm coming at you because I hit you.
Wait, you
Is
hit
your-
me?
Yes, I
He hit you,
I
and
rear-ended
now
you.
he's coming at you too.
Yeah, because I
calling
hit
you names.
exact mean things. I'm saying,
Oh,
hey, you
man.
meanie.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's
To be
intense
honest,
right there.
that's
we
a
can't say that
challenge.
here.
That's a challenge, because
And they start hitting your car too.
I love the Lord, but I'm just speaking from I'm putting myself in that situation, and I'm being honest. I'm not sure how I'd react, but I don't think it'd be a positive way. I'm hoping it's a positive way. But
Very watered down.
especially
way to say it.
if someone is coming at you like that, I mean, that's a lot of stress, to be honest. And
Now, to take it down a couple notches, like
yeah.
we've all been wronged.
Mm.
Let's say they're someone is getting verbal with you. When is it okay to say, you know what, I'm not going to take this? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Oh.
Like standing up
I
for
usually
yourself.
Standing up for
Putting your
yourself,
foot-
yeah.
so your foot
Because
down.
we could talk up. We could. I mean, the in the Bible, it's you turn the
Turn
other cheek,
right.
right?
I think there is a way for you to handle that situation without you getting because this is the thing, we can't control the way how this person is like treating us and stuff, but we can choose the way how to react to that. I've been in a situation where, being frank, at church, some folks.
You're being frank. I thought you were Dave.
Just being frank.
Hey, Frank.
Frankenstein. never mind,
Frankenstein.
I don't Frankenstein. What the heck? Anyways, just where some folks were really I'll just be straight up rude.
What did they
and
say?
I'm not gonna repeat it because
Oh,
I don't
okay.
want anybody to feel
Mhm.
attacked by it or anything.
Sure.
I'm not trying to go at anybody.
Yeah.
I just wanted.
It was something in the past.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
addressed. But they were quite rude, and it wasn't just to me, but some of the Pathfinder kids as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so for me, that was like, bro,
Like
No.
I understand me.
Yeah.
yeah,
But kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like to me, like I saw the situation, but at the same time, how do you put it? I don't think the way how they snapped at the kid, that myself and the kids, it was necessary.
Yeah.
They could have been like, oh, we're occupying, we're in here right now, da 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 da, because the kids are just running because it's used by
Kids
everyone.
don't know.
I
Yeah.
mean, and they weren't aware of the situation, and so then I was just like, I thought they were joking and they were serious, and I was just like, well, like da 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 da. I mean, I don't think I told them anything out of the way, but I was frank with them, like, come on, man. And later on, they came and they apologized, but like I said, I think there's a way for you to handle something. I mean, I do think you need to put your foot down, not be a
Yeah.
step over. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you compromise yourself, who you are, your character,
Your integrity.
Yes, thank you.
And being assertive. Like,
Yeah.
Or like, they disrespected you, but still show respect
Yeah.
to them. But say, hey,
Yeah.
I didn't like what you said because I felt
Yeah.
this way. And like, there was a situation with me one time, or there's been a lot of situations like this, where people,
You seem to be getting in a lot of situations.
I do.
Yeah.
We
I
are
do.
in
Yeah.
situations.
I'm very sensitive.
Situation sensitive.
But no, basically, somebody just like I went out of state, out of California, and somebody assumed that I spoke Spanish,
Oh.
and then they assumed that I listened
You
to
don't speak Spanish?
Spanish music.
I'm just
And
kidding.
then-
Carlitos.
No,
I'm
I'm
just kidding.
No, just-
Carlitos.
Are you testing him right there?
No, I was kidding.
Forgiveness.
But no, they're like, oh, I'm like, no, I don't speak Spanish. They're like, why not? Aren't you?
Oh.
And then I'm like,
Yeah, I've gotten that.
and then I'm
I've
like,
done that too, bro.
I'm like,
I'm Asian.
well, I'm American.
Yeah.
But
That's right,
also,
brother.
my family is not originally like from Mexico. They
Yeah.
grew up like 7 generations. Like my family was here before America. I mean, my family was here when Mexico was America.
Yeah.
Like,
So you're like
When California was
deep
Mexico.
American.
yeah,
You're like
yeah.
literally bleed red, white, and blue.
Like border crosser
No,
family
no.
type of
No, well, what they call me is a potato. Like,
well, potato.
yeah. Never
Why?
mind.
What-
That's kinda-
Anyways, but basically, yeah. Then they were like, "Oh, why don't you learn?" And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
and I was just like,
That's
because
nice.
like I don't really want to. I don't need to.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that Spanish is not like a good
Yeah.
language to learn, because Heidi speaks
Yeah.
really great Spanish, but it's just that assumption of me, and it's just like, like forget, not just like
Yeah.
stepping back and saying like that person might not understand. They probably come from a place that most people my skin color
Speak Spanish.
speak Spanish.
Yeah.
You should speak Spanish.
Yeah, you should speak Spanish. You
That's
should
the
listen to
mindset they
Spanish
have.
music.
Yeah.
Why do
should
you
like-
listen?
yeah.
How like don't you eat
Why don't you roll your
tacos and
eyes?
burritos and
Yeah.
some racist things, and they didn't see it as racist. They saw it
Yeah.
as that. No, I was being nice, but they
Yeah.
did come up to me and like, hey, like I'm sorry if I offended you, and I'm like, at that time, I was like, oh yeah, it's okay. But at the time, I should have been like, no, yeah, like that really hurt,
Yeah.
But
That-
but my anxiety was
Yeah.
kicking in. I didn't
Yeah.
wasn't assertive. But
Yeah. One little thing I wanted to point out there. It's not a biggie, but how you see how that thing where we're like, I find that a lot of times when people do us stuff, like we're like, oh, it's okay, and it's like it's not okay.
yeah,
It was clearly not okay. Pero why do we do that?
Being assertive is a skill,
yeah, it is
a
a skill.
really important skill.
It's a
Yeah.
skill.
Yeah.
You don't
It could
just
be
you're not born with it.
nerve-wracking.
It's a skill.
Yeah. Yeah, just learning how to have respect to someone in a really heated situation, understanding that your well-being is important, and you don't have to yell at like the level they're yelling at you at. But it's more like, hey, I feel this way when you're doing that, like that's enough, and then stepping away if you need to. But yeah.
Have you ever like retaliated badly, unwisely?
I would say I think we all have. I know, like, I mean, not like physical. I haven't been in like a
I've been
physical,
physical.
but
Yeah, recently.
yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Recently, I did. And it was.
You did do something that caused someone
punch
harm?
somebody?
No, I retaliated.
Oh, okay.
It was.
Did it?
To be honest, it was a stupid. Excuse my language. It was a silly, Facebook comment. I'm just being
Okay.
frank. It was. Someone. I'm not gonna lie. I care about the person, but it was a silly argument. To be quite honest, it was nothing deep or anything serious. But in the moment, I was just like, Psh, "Are you serious?" Da 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 da. I can't believe
And you
this
just
person.
went with it. Yeah.
And so then I was trying to de-escalate the situation, but the person kept on guessing it.
They were looking for the trouble.
From my perspective.
Yeah.
From my perspective. And so I was just like, what the heck? And they just kept on going at it, and I'm not gonna lie, at first I was just like laughing about it, like this is silly. But then it struck a nerve on me, and then I snapped back at them, like at first I was just like, this is silly responding to them, da 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 da. But after the whole thing, like I'm not gonna lie, that day I was just like,
You just weren't having
da
it.
da 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 da. I'm use your name for
Yeah.
Dawson.
No, okay.
Now,
Do you think how you reacted? Do you think that caused that person harm?
to be honest, I would say yeah.
Yeah.
How much harm
You don't know.
That's not for me to determine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I do feel bad about it, and I do want to speak to this person in person.
And ask them for forgiveness for your actions?
Yes, because it was unnecessary. The whole thing was unnecessary, and
Mhm.
it was silly,
Yeah.
Have you guys had any scenarios like that where you did something that caused someone harm
Um.
recently?
Like not necessarily. Let's see. I think Dave. I think I heard. I think I heard Dave like one time, and like I added on to, like he had experiences that he has experiences that where people have hurt him, and so I called him something that he didn't like, and or even I made fun of him too.
Mhm.
And like Dave, he like if I'm like keep on like if he tells me or if he's feeling uncomfortable and I keep on like pressing and making fun of him, it doesn't feel good when you're the joke,
Yeah.
after a while. And so like after, Dave, I'm like, hey Dave, like I saw you a little uncomfortable. Like, were you okay? He's like, actually, no. He's like, I didn't really like what you were doing, Charlie. I'm like, I'm sorry. I messed up again, my friend. And he's like, no, he's like, it's all good. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, you told me like not to do that before. And I try to do it. Like I try not to do it, but I just was inclined to just make you the joke of, the just make fun of him. And so, but he's like, thanks, brother. He's like,
Compa.
yeah, compa. He's like, but Dave, forgave me. And I'm like, all right, let's, I forgive you. And, but I'm sorry. And I'm like, and I told him, I'm like, I forgive you for anything you've done to me. Like that time. No, I was kidding.
He's like that one time.
Like that one time. You remember that one time? Like,
No,
yeah. Okay.
But no, and then he's like, no, it's good. And then after that, there was, it gave him a way to trust me more, because he know that not only that I acknowledged my problem and the situation, but that I was asking for forgiveness, true forgiveness.
Yeah.
For forgiveness for your actions.
Yeah.
And just it's a testament, that Charlie has been a really close friend of mine for like since I met you in 2014.
I don't know.
Yeah, 2014, man.
I don't keep track.
Yeah,
Just say yes.
It just feels like a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I mean, you've had disagreements and stuff like that, but you resolve them, and
ask them for forgiveness for your actions.
right? And he's been one of my closest friends, man.
Yeah.
Right on, right. Heidi, do you think you've ever, in recent history, that you can think of, done something that caused someone harm?
I would say yes. When I'm really stressed out, I think I wasn't thinking clearly, so then I had to ask for forgiveness of what I've said.
Was it for me?
Yes, also to my mom, because my mom is like, how do I explain? She's very loving. That she because she cares so much about you, like she wants to provide, she wants to buy, she wants to fix the situation.
She can make you feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, because she's so loving and caring. Like sometimes it feels overwhelming. So like at that time where I'm stressed, I don't really need to hear the solution. It's more like I need some time to like de-escalate the stress, think about it, and then maybe like get some input. But in that time, like I'm just like, this is enough. Like I don't want to hear about it.
You don't need any more input at all.
Yeah. So I realized that I did that to my mom recently, and I did apologize. Because it just felt ugly knowing that my mom was trying to love and care on me, but at that time I just was not thinking clearly. So
I had something similar.
Yeah.
This was when I was in second grade. This is going back. I'm not saying I don't do things that cause people harm today.
yeah.
But I so clearly. So I was late for school. We were late for school for some reason, and it was like the day that there's like some sort of event going on at school. Right, it was like a sports event, and I really wanted to be there, but we missed it just like barely, and I was mad, and I don't know why I was so mad. But I was mad at my mom, and I dropped. I came to school with a basketball, and I dropped it, and she went to pick it up, and I kicked it away from her. Yeah, and she just looked so hurt. And I'm pretty sure she still remembers it. Mom, I'm sorry, I love you. But I felt terrible. Like this is my mom. She sacrifices so much so I can have, clothes and food and school
and love.
I'm always trying not to cry.
I'm alive, and I did that. And I talked to her about it. At the end of the day, I sucked it up, and I was like, I'm so sorry I did that. I love you, Mom. And she was like, I was really hurt by that. And I just I thought about that recently, and I like almost started crying. I did that to my mom, dude, my mom.
Yeah.
But thinking about that, I asking for forgiveness and being forgiven and forgiving people, I think for me it makes me feel better about myself. It's like closure or like peace. if
Yeah.
you will.
And-
Being able to forgive, being able to
Yeah.
not necessarily forget, but being able to be the bigger person and either
Mhm.
asking for forgiveness.
And also, sorry, just
No. Yeah, go ahead.
and also forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's something a lot of people
because
forget.
and because forgiving yourself is a huge step too,
Mhm.
because once you've done that crime and ask for forgiveness, okay, they forgive you, now forgive yourself,
Yeah.
for that crime too.
Yeah.
So, but are you gonna?
No, I was just gonna ask, like, do you guys does being forgiven or asking for forgiveness and getting that closure, do you guys feel at peace?
Yeah, I honestly, as I said, like I feel at peace, but also, as I said, my family situation,
Mm.
I've seen them hold hate and not forgive,
Mhm.
and just it tore our family apart.
Mm.
And with their hate towards somebody else, they were hurting me, even if I didn't do anything, and they were hurting other people
Mhm.
because they just had so much hate and hurt and didn't trust anybody, and they just because they held it on so much,
Just stews.
it just
Thicker.
went,
Yeah.
and it was they trespassed the so many lines,
Mm.
so many boundaries, and they became in a sense dead, when and within their own unforgiveness, and it was more unselfishness for themselves. And so because they never forgave people's uh you know people passing that boundary, they became more just again, in a sense I say dead, because they became dead because they weren't seeing anybody else except themselves. They
Mhm.
weren't treating nobody with love, they weren't treating anybody with kindness, with respect, and it was just holding everything in.
Yeah.
And so everything that came out was just pain.
Yeah.
And not only pain that I'm in pain, but also I'm going to give you pain,
Mm.
you know.
Because
Yeah.
they weren't able to reach that closure.
Yeah, and so as I said, like for example, my mom is one of the people. I told her I forgave her, and so far I've been understanding her and taking that step back. But I've been seeing that she's been able to have more peace, and our relationship has more peace.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And not only peace, but it has more love, and it has more, for me personally, I think for her, it has more hope too.
Mhm.
Hope for the future to have a better relationship.
That's
And
good.
and it's also seeing that this person's forgiving me now, like they can forget, not that gives them an excuse to keep on doing what they do, but it's like we can reconcile this relationship and I can
Yeah.
love them more. And every time I forgive them, they love me more, not hurt me more, love me more,
And that's important.
and that's important.
Yeah.
Because the person that I ask for forgiveness but they don't love me back, that becomes abuse, and that becomes more of a relationship that I don't want to be, because they keep on passing those boundaries and keep on
Mm.
and it's never like, okay, you're not taking my forgiveness seriously, but the only reason why maybe you're not doing something to me is because you're scared of the consequences. Maybe the reason why you want to be my friend is because you're scared that you're not going to have a certain asset or a certain benefit that I provide for you, whether it's money, whether it's food, whether it's love, whether it's a relationship, whether it's feeling good about yourself. You keep this relationship for your own selfish reasons, but you never put the effort to give back. And so it's just, I have to dissolve those
It's just
situations.
a parasite. Like,
A parasite. Yeah.
question for you guys. What for you guys? What does it mean to forgive?
Mhm.
Mm.
Like, what does it mean to forgive someone? How do you guys forgive?
I feel like I keep on talking. You want to say
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, I think forgiveness is not undermining the situation. Like, you shouldn't undermine what you actually feel and what you've been through, because it's important to acknowledge that what you felt is real.
Absolutely.
But forgiveness, at least for me, it's a, I guess you can say forgiveness is a choice. you
an
know,
action.
and it's an action.
It's not a thought.
And you have to be willing to do that. And you know, at least forgiveness, that the way I do it is I realize that whatever I'm holding on to is like leaking into the other parts of my life, you know? So like for example, when Charlie was mentioning about how when people hold hate, like it was kind of like trickling down into the relationship with him even though he didn't do anything. I realized that if there's something that I need to resolve and I'm not actually taking time to analyze the situation and my feelings, then eventually I might start getting, you know, maybe like my heart might start getting hardened, or not trusting other people, or maybe it just like affects, you know, like the way I think or my stress levels or my anxiety. So my stress and anxiety, I don't want that stuff to affect, you know, my life and cause unhealthy habits. So what I do is I acknowledge the situation. Either it was if I ask for forgiveness or want to reconcile something. I try to tell that person if I could that it was hurtful. And then after that, you know, reconciling that relationship, I think it's just taking time to realize like how can I move forward from this by building new happy, healthy habits,
Yeah.
or acknowledging like there's other things you can do to cope with it. You know, because you can't like forgive someone and then just be like, oh yeah, nothing happened, and like that wasn't valid. You
So-
know.
So just to follow up on that, I know we're short
Yeah.
on time. I have one question. Is forgiveness something that's like a one-time thing? Like, oh Heidi, you stepped on my foot twice, and yeah, I
Why'd you
forgive
do that?
yeah, like I forgive you and it's over, or is it
Mhm.
or is
Step-
forgiveness something that's
stepped
an
on my Jordans.
ongoing thing? You know, because it kind of goes back into the thing with like forgiving and forgetting kind of a stuff. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys see the correlation, or it's just like when I say like is forgiveness like an ongoing thing versus a one-time thing?
Yeah.
Is it like something that, all right, I forgive you and that's that, or is it like
No, I think it's an
no.
ongoing thing.
Yeah.
It's a,
I
it's
think
a-
it is.
It's an ongoing conscious decision.
Yeah.
And conscious decision, but also within, because it's not just like if someone, like as I said, my mom has hurt me a lot. Like I'm gonna be honest, I still have hurt.
Yeah.
And there's still things that I
Mhm.
have to build, you know, upon that hurt and say I forgive you for this and this. And but as I said, it's identifying the problems. I don't know every problem issue I have with my mom, but I know there's something.
Mhm.
And so it's just like, as I kind of saying, as you were saying, it's an ongoing process and it doesn't happen overnight.
yeah?
And it's not just like, oh, I forgive you, but it's
Yeah.
that hey, I forgive you and you forgive me. It's that step to that ongoing process too,
Mhm.
which, you know, cleanses our soul in a sense, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's kind of what I was saying too, is that, like as I said, my mom was spilling out pain and I had pain, you know, and that's what that like the sin problem is, you know, us just causing trespassing against all these boundaries. And once I had pain, I gave pain to, you know, so and so and so, you know. When I first met Heidi, I gave her a lot of pain too, because I just didn't believe that anybody could love me.
Mm.
And I was very toxic and I was unhealthy. But, you know, Heidi showed me love, you know, my church showed me love. And so I saw that sin problem was, you know, there was like that, like detour sign, you know, it kind of stopped that. And it's like, but it was hard because
Alternate route, yeah.
it was hard because, you know, that sin problem, I've only known that all my life. And so when I had those detours,
A
it
new
took
real life.
a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know,
To realize and understand, yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
And it's like, you know, the relationship with God and Satan, you know, I know that God gave him the opportunity to, you know,
Seek
to
forgiveness.
seek forgiveness, but not only that, is like he gave him mercy and grace and, you know, love. And but what did Satan do? He abused the relationship, and he keeps on abusing. And I'm not going to say that, you know, there's I'll speed it up. I'm not going to say that, you know, they have a perfect, but I still think that when in the Bible it says that God doesn't want anybody to be tormented. He doesn't enjoy anybody's
Tasteless
the
like that.
tormentation of anybody. And I think that goes with Satan too. Even though Satan's the abuser and the accuser and the liar
Time
and
and time
the
again.
murderer and
Yeah.
everything, God still created him, and
Mm.
created us. And so God, as I said, forgives us each day, when we do the sin and the sin and the sin. And that brings me, as I said, it's forgiving myself too. God, you forgive me. This person forgive me. I need to forgive myself too, And so it just goes on with that. End story.
Like, all right. I think we have reached the time for today. Once again, thank you guys for being with me, Dave.
Yes,
Coming
sir.
back. Charlie, Heidi,
Mhm.
thanks again for coming on board. We're just gonna close with a quick prayer. Heidi, do you mind praying us out?
Yeah, sure. Father God, I want to thank you, Lord, for giving this opportunity to come here as friends and acknowledge, Lord, the importance of forgiveness. I want to ask you, Lord, for everyone here, for all those who are watching, Lord. We know that we all have hurt somebody or been hurt by someone. And I ask, Lord, that you give us guidance, that we may be able to come together to have the courage to mend relationships and know, Lord, when to step back and find healthier ways in our life. I want to ask, Lord, that we be able to put down our pride and acknowledge that healthy relationships, Lord, and being able to love and care those around us is important. Help us know how to reach out and be able to connect with one another. And I ask, Lord, that your Holy Spirit may work in our lives, that we may be able to come to you, Lord, with the hurt that is weighing really heavy on our hearts, that we may seek your peace, Lord, your wisdom, and your true joy. And I just thank you, Lord, so much for the blessings that you have given us. And we ask this in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.